Here's an uncomfortable truth about the World Cup. The best team on paper does not always survive the round of 16. Not because they are worse, because this round does not reward talent. It rewards nerve. For 6 straight weeks now, teams have been allowed to lose. A bad half, a red card, a missed penalty, none of it was fatal, because there was always another group game, another chance to fix it. That safety net is gone now. 8 matches decide who keeps dreaming and who flies home for good, and there is no version of "we'll get them next time," because for half of these teams, there is no next time. Somewhere in this bracket, 2 European heavyweights are about to collide, and it could end one legend's final World Cup early. We are getting to that game last, on purpose, because it deserves to close the show, not open it. First, the matches nobody is really arguing about, the ones where the form and the tactics point in basically one direction. Then we climb, step by step, into the games where nobody can agree on anything. Quick refresher, because the stakes just changed, and the rules of engagement changed with them. Round of 16 means single elimination. 1 match. Not 2 legs, not aggregate scores, just one 90-minute window to be the better team. Win, and you play on. Lose, and you are done. Packing bags, doing exit interviews, watching the rest of the tournament from a couch like the rest of us. If the match is level after 90 minutes, you get 30 more minutes, called extra time, to sort it out. Still level after that, it comes down to penalties. 5 shooters each, sudden death if it's still tied. No second leg. No away goals rule to save you. No, we were the better team over 2 games, excuse. Just one night, and whatever you do with it. This is the round where form lies to you, and here's exactly how. A team that scored freely in the group stage, against opponents who had nothing to lose and often nothing to play for, suddenly plays like it is terrified of its own shadow, because one mistake here ends everything instead of just costing 3 points. Fatigue starts creeping in too, because this is now the 4th match in about 2 weeks for some of these squads, and legs that felt fine in the opening game start feeling heavy in minute 70. Suspensions bite, hard, and sometimes for reasons that feel unfair, which we'll get into with one specific team in a minute. And here's the part scouts and pundits talk about constantly, but casual fans miss. Players who looked fearless against weaker opponents in low-pressure group games sometimes freeze completely the second the stakes multiply by 10. It's not about being bad at football anymore. It's about whether you can still play football while your brain is screaming at you that this might be the last time you ever get to. So every prediction in this video runs through one filter, and only one filter. Not who is better on paper, who handles fear better. We'll also flag a confidence level for each match, and here's what that actually means in plain terms, because we like translating jargon on this channel, not creating more of it. Easy pick means the gap in quality, form, and situation is wide enough that an upset would be a genuine shock. 50-50 means exactly what it sounds like, a coin flip, where we're picking a side because the video needs a pick, not because the numbers demand one. Everything else sits somewhere in between. Let's start with the easiest read on the entire board. France steamrolled Sweden 3-0 in the round of 32, a performance that looked less like a knockout match and more like a training exercise, and that came right after Ousmane Dembélé put together a hat-trick against Norway back in the group stage. This is a team peaking at exactly the right moment in the calendar, which, if you've watched enough World Cups, you know is rarer than it should be. Paraguay, meanwhile, needed penalties just to get past Germany, a nervy, backs-to-the-wall, one-shot-at-a-time survival that tells you everything about their identity. Tactically, this is France's pace and vertical pressing against Paraguay's discipline and low block, and if you're new to that term, a low block just means a team packs almost everyone behind the ball near their own goal, daring the opponent to try and pick the lock instead of racing through open space. Paraguay can frustrate you for an hour with that approach. They cannot frustrate you for 90 minutes against a frontline finishing chances the way France's currently is. The head-to-head stylistic matchup here is really speed against patience, and speed usually wins that argument when the patient team also has to defend for the full 90. Upset potential is low, not zero, because Paraguay's whole identity is built on refusing to panic, and that identity buys them respect, not victory. Confidence level, easy pick. France advances. Morocco is the team that made history in 2022, becoming the first African nation to ever reach a World Cup semifinal. And this current squad is built on that exact same foundation, 4 years later, with the scar tissue and the confidence that comes from having already done something nobody else from their continent had done before. Structured, patient, genuinely hard to break down, which sounds boring until it's your team trying and failing to break them down for 90 minutes. They needed penalties to get past the Netherlands in the round of 32, which sounds shaky on the surface, until you remember they also drew Brazil in the group stage, meaning this defense has already stood toe-to-toe with one of the most talented attacking teams in the entire tournament. Canada is riding co-host energy, and Alphonso Davies gives them real, game-breaking pace out wide, the kind of speed that turns a half chance into a genuine goal threat in about 2 seconds. But their win over South Africa in the previous round was tight, not dominant, and tight wins against opponents who eventually go home don't always translate against opponents built specifically to absorb pressure. Stylistically, this is Morocco's compact shape and patient build-up against Canada's counter speed and direct running, two very different definitions of what good football even looks like. The upset potential here is real, genuinely real, because co-host adrenaline is not a myth, it's a measurable performance boost, and Houston will feel like a home game for Canada even outside their own borders. But Morocco has already survived pressure moments against Brazil, against the Netherlands, that Canada simply has not been tested by yet at this tournament. Confidence level, comfortable pick. Morocco advances. Argentina got through Cape Verde 3-2 in extra time, and if that scoreline makes you a little nervous watching this from the couch, you are reading the situation correctly. This is not the free-flowing, dominant Argentina we saw earlier in the tournament. This looked, at times, like a team that knew it was supposed to win and forgot to actually go out and do it until extra time forced the issue. But this is also Messi's stage, in what most of the football world is treating as his final World Cup, and moments like that tend to sharpen a team rather than break it, because nobody in that dressing room wants to be remembered as the group that let it end early. Egypt survived Australia on penalties, which tells you they are calm under maximum sudden death pressure, a genuinely valuable trait in a knockout tournament. But calm does not create chances against a team that controls the ball, the tempo, and the spacing the way Argentina does when it's actually locked in. Tactically, this is patient, possession-heavy build-up against a disciplined low block that will sit deep, stay compact, and look for one set piece or one quick counter to change the entire game in a single moment. The stylistic matchup is control versus resistance, and resistance can hold for a while, but it rarely holds for the full 90 against opponents who can pick a lock from multiple angles. Upset potential is moderate, not high, because Egypt has proven nerve under pressure, but hasn't proven they can consistently create danger against elite possession sides. Confidence level, easy pick. Argentina advances. Switzerland handled Algeria 2-0 in the previous round. Clean, controlled, almost boring, in the best possible way. Exactly what you'd expect from a team built on structure and discipline rather than individual flair. Colombia scraped past Ghana 1-0, a result that flattered them slightly if we're being honest, because Ghana created enough moments of their own to make that scoreline feel closer than the match actually was. Stylistically, this is Swiss organization and shape discipline against Colombian individual quality and improvisation. And here's the thing about individual quality when it's not backed by a system. It tends to get squeezed out and isolated over 90 long minutes against a defense that never breaks formation. Colombia has the kind of players who can manufacture a goal completely out of nothing, a moment of pure instinct that no scouting report saw coming. But moments are not a plan, and Switzerland's entire tournament has been built on removing the other team's plan entirely. Upset potential is moderate, mostly because of that individual talent gap in Colombia's favor, but moderate is not the same as likely. Confidence level, comfortable pick. Switzerland advances. Quick pause before the coin flips start, because we're about to walk into the part of this bracket where nobody, including us, is fully confident. If you're new to this channel, this is what we do. We take the World Cup and explain it for people who did not grow up with the sport. No jargon left unexplained, no assumptions about what you already know. Consider subscribing before the next 4 matches, because the bracket only gets more chaotic from here, and we're covering every single round the same way. England beat DR Congo 2-1 in the previous round, but it was not pretty, and it required a second-half Harry Kane brace just to turn a scare into a win. Pundits have openly questioned since that match whether Kane still has his usual sharpness in front of goal, and whether Thomas Tuchel's tactical magic, so effective early in the tournament, has started fading as the pressure ramps up. Mexico, on the other hand, just won its first World Cup knockout match since 1986, ending a genuinely long drought, and they get to play this one at home, in Mexico City, in front of a crowd with a well-earned, decades-long reputation for making stadiums genuinely unbearable for visiting teams. Tactically, this is England's individual quality and squad depth against Mexico's home field chaos and set-piece energy, two very different sources of danger. Historically, host nations consistently punch above their measured tournament form in exactly this kind of game, the emotional, electric, backs-against-the-wall home knockout match, because crowd noise is a genuine performance variable, not just an atmosphere detail. My upset potential here is genuinely higher than most people are giving it credit for, specifically because of that Azteca factor. Confidence level, medium. England edges it on paper, on squad quality, on depth, but do not be shocked if this one is far closer than the names on the shirts would suggest, because Mexico is not just playing a match here, they're playing in front of their entire country. Brazil needed a stoppage time goal from Gabriel Martinelli just to beat Japan 2-1 in the previous round. Read that back for a second, because that is not the free-scoring dominant Brazil that lives in most people's imagination when they hear the word favorites. Norway beat Ivory Coast 2-1 behind a late Erling Haaland goal, and Haaland is arguably the single most efficient pure finisher on the planet right now, a player who does not need to be involved in the build-up to end your night. Here's some context that matters more than people realize. Norway's best World Cup result, ever, in the country's entire history, is the round of 16, and they have only reached that stage twice, back in 1938 and again in 1998. This country simply does not have a tradition of deep World Cup runs, which makes this current squad's presence here, this close to potentially rewriting their own history, genuinely remarkable regardless of what happens next. Tactically, this is Brazil's fluid, flair-based, multiple attacker approach against Norway's far more direct system, built almost entirely around getting the ball to Haaland as quickly and as often as possible. The individual duel worth circling on your calendar is Vinicius Jr. against Erling Haaland, two of the most dangerous attacking players in this entire tournament on opposite ends of the same pitch at the same time. Upset potential is real here, genuinely real, because Haaland does not need 11 chances to end a World Cup dream, he needs one. Confidence level, tough, genuinely tough, but Brazil advances. Now we get to the actual coin flips, the matches where we are picking a side because the format requires it, not because the numbers are screaming an answer at us. The USA beat Bosnia and Herzegovina 2-0 in the previous round, a genuinely good result, but Fuller and Balogun was sent off in that same match, and even though a VAR review afterward found the red card was wrongly given in the first place, the suspension still stands, which means the US loses its most dangerous finisher for this specific game, regardless of who was technically right. Belgium survived Senegal 3-2 in extra time, clawing all the way back from 2 goals down in the final minutes of regulation. Which tells you something important. This so-called golden generation, the one everyone keeps saying is aging out of relevance, still has real fight left in it when its back is against the wall. History adds real weight to this particular matchup too. These two teams met in the round of 16 exactly 12 years ago, back in 2014, and Belgium won that match in extra time, behind one of the most famous goalkeeping performances in modern World Cup history from the American side, and the US still lost that night anyway, which is either a great story about heroic failure or a cautionary tale, depending on how you want to frame it. They also met again in a pre-tournament friendly earlier this year, and, put simply, it did not go particularly well for the Americans. Tactically, this is Belgium's experience and clinical edge in big moments against USA's speed, energy, and pressing, minus their sharpest finishing weapon, plus a home soil crowd advantage in Seattle that genuinely should not be underestimated. Upset potential doesn't really apply as a concept here, because there is no clear favorite to upset. This is as close to a genuine 50-50 as this entire bracket produces. Confidence level, 50-50, no hedging, no dressing it up as anything else. Edge to the USA, mainly because of the crowd behind them and the emotional lift of a home knockout match, but do not bet your rent money on it, and honestly, don't bet anyone else's either. And here it is, the one we promised you at the very top of this video, the match we said we'd save for last, because it earns that spot. On paper, this should not be close, and we want to be honest about that before we say anything else. Spain is ranked second in the entire world heading into this tournament. Portugal is ranked fifth. Spain just beat Austria 3-0 in the previous round, in what several pundits are calling their most convincing knockout stage performance since they won the entire tournament outright back in 2010. Sit with that for a second, because that's a 15-year gap without producing a knockout win of that caliber, and now, right on schedule, it shows up again. Portugal, though, got through Croatia 2-1, and Cristiano Ronaldo scored his first ever World Cup knockout stage goal in the process, a penalty, before Gonçalo Ramos won the match with a header in stoppage time, the kind of finish that gets replayed for years. Historically, Portugal's best ever World Cup finish in the country's entire history is third place, all the way back in 1966, nearly 60 years ago. They have never walked into a tournament as the favorite, not once, and they have never let that stop them from making noise anyway. Tactically, this is Spain's suffocating control-everything possession system, built to starve you of the ball until you make a mistake out of sheer boredom, against Portugal's mix of individual brilliance and ruthless, efficient counterattacking, built to make you pay for exactly one mistake, once. The star power alone makes this appointment viewing, because for Ronaldo, this is very likely his final World Cup, running in direct poetic parallel with Messi's own farewell campaign happening on the completely opposite side of this same bracket, at the exact same time. Upset potential, if you can even call the statistically weaker side an underdog here, is extremely high, arguably the highest of any match in this entire round. Confidence level, 50-50, and we mean that. On raw quality, on the rankings, on recent form, Spain should win this match, and we'd understand completely if you picked them. But we're edging Portugal anyway, because tournaments like this one are rarely, if ever, won by the team playing the statistically cleanest football. They're won by the team that refuses to accept the story is supposed to be over. Here's the detail most predictions completely skip over, and it's the one that actually decides more of these matches than people admit. Home advantage and farewell narratives cut both ways, always, no exceptions. A co-host crowd can lift a team to a result they had absolutely no statistical business getting, the exact way Mexico could lift Estadio Azteca into total chaos tomorrow night. But it can also smother a team in its own pressure, because losing at home, in front of your entire country, on your own soil, hits completely differently than losing on some neutral ground 3,000 miles from anyone who cares. The same logic applies, almost exactly, to Ronaldo and Messi's farewell tours running in parallel across this bracket. A legend playing what might genuinely be his final World Cup match can absolutely inspire a team to override the numbers, to find something extra that wasn't measurable in training. It can also tempt a team into building the entire game plan around one player who is well past 30 and physically cannot do it alone for a full 90 minutes anymore, no matter how much heart is involved. Whether you like it or not, sentiment does not show up on a stat sheet. But it absolutely, unmistakably shows up on the scoreboard, whether the analytics crowd wants to admit that or not. A few videos ago on this channel, we asked out loud whether Croatia or Cape Verde could be the teams to end Messi and Ronaldo's final World Cup runs early, before this stage even arrived. Neither one of them did it. Ronaldo's Portugal beat Croatia. Messi's Argentina survived Cape Verde, barely, in extra time, but survived nonetheless. Both legends are still standing, still here, still exactly where the sport's biggest storylines needed them to be. But the bracket does not care about sentiment forever, and it never has. Egypt now gets its own shot at ending Messi's run, in this very round. Spain gets its own shot at ending Ronaldo's, on the very same weekend. Somebody's farewell story might actually end this weekend, whether the internet, the sponsors, or the highlight reels are emotionally ready for it or not. So here's the entire board, laid out in one breath, the way you'd explain it to a friend who just walked in and missed everything. The France and Argentina handle their business comfortably against Paraguay and Egypt, two easy picks built on a clear gap in quality and control. Morocco and Switzerland grind out control against Canada and Colombia, structure and discipline beating raw talent and home crowd energy, at least on paper. England survives Mexico's home atmosphere in a match that's closer than the rankings suggest, and Brazil survives Norway's one enormous weapon in Erling Haaland, in a match that could realistically go either way if Haaland gets even one clean look. Then the round gets genuinely, unavoidably dangerous. USA and Belgium is a real coin flip, decided as much by who's missing from the lineup and who's got the louder crowd as by anything on a stat sheet. And Portugal versus Spain closes the entire round as the one true blockbuster, quality against narrative, favorite against farewell tour, with no clean, confident right answer for anyone watching at home. Here's the fact worth remembering after all of this, the one to actually take with you when this video ends. Brazil has now reached the round of 16 in 11 straight World Cups. 11, consecutively, without a single miss. No team currently remaining in this entire bracket has a streak anywhere close to that number, and yet even Brazil, with all that history behind them, needed a stoppage time goal just to get here this time around. That's how genuinely unforgiving this round is, for absolutely everyone, no matter how decorated your history is. Now it's your turn, and we mean that. Which one of these 8 predictions do you disagree with the most, and who do you think actually pulls off the biggest upset of the weekend? Drop it in the comments, because we genuinely want to know before a single one of these games kicks off, and your answer actually shapes how we cover the next round. You're welcome. Subscribe if you enjoyed this type of content. It means a lot.